That was a very good clap.
That was a great clap. There's the physics behind clapping. It's not all about the force of your arms. That's part of it, but just you have to get the right
hand positions.
Right hand position. Yeah.
Hey, well, welcome back, everybody, to the Balance for Life podcast. Our goal here is to help to motivate you to level up in some aspect of your life and grow and develop and gain true success and happiness in all those good places.
Yeah. If you like what you hear, don't forget to follow, hit that 5-star review or like button, and join us on social media. We post stuff sometimes that might be helpful. That's not part of our episodes of our podcast. So join us on, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I don't think we've had anything on TikTok for a while.
We haven't had anything anywhere for
a while.
We need to do a little bit better.
Join us. We might start posting stuff
we might
on
start
social
posting
media.
stuff. So, surprise!
But you can find us at Balance for Life, the number 4, or on Twitter, it's at Adam and Perry. And if we all spelled out, if we start getting more followers, we'll start posting.
Yeah.
It's not if you post it, they will
follow. It's if they follow, we'll start posting.
Yeah. So we need more followers, people.
We totally do. So come along with us.
Maybe we should watch our episode from last week of the level of effort we put in. That's what we get out of it. Why is nobody watching our...
Because we're not posting anything on social media.
Podcast. Yeah, exactly.
That's actually a very good point. So there you go. Hey, quick introduction too. That's actually a really good point. Is just because we're talking about this stuff doesn't mean that we're perfect at it. Usually we talk about things that we need to improve on.
Oh yeah.
And that's how we come up with the topics we come up with. So also, if you have any topics...
We're doing this as much for ourselves as we are
for you. Absolutely. Since we have like 4 listeners on our podcast, it's at least as much for us as it is for you.
Yeah.
But also on that note, if any of you 4 listeners have specific topics that you would like to hear us talk about, or maybe something that you'd like to introduce us to, share it with us.
What is this, episode 18, I think?
Yeah, this is episode 18.
We're running out of ideas, people. And we have some more, but...
Oh, we have plenty more, because they're all based on things that we need to improve on. And I know I've got a lot of ideas, so we can figure stuff out. But so I think we've actually got a really good episode today. And this episode came about, so those of you listening to this is going to come out just after Halloween. But every year for Halloween, for about the last, technically we've been doing this since my wife and I got married, but it just became official. It took a few years to get the barn finished. And so every year we do this big family Halloween barn party with my in-laws. And so we were up in my in-laws' house doing this barn party, and we stayed at my sister-in-law's house for the weekend. And noticed that my brother-in-law, so my wife's sister's husband, has lost quite a bit of weight and looks really good. So we started talking, and he told us that he's lost 40 pounds. So this was, we were up there like the 15th and 16th, 17th of October-ish. So their youngest sister got married the first weekend of September. It was Labor Day weekend, and she got married. And so he was telling us that since her wedding, so about a month and a half, he's lost 40 pounds. And so we were like, what are you doing? How, first question is, well, is everything okay? That's a lot of weight to lose in a very short amount of time. So first question is everything okay health-wise? Yeah. And, you don't have like tapeworm or something. But
like Kelly from The Office, she swallowed a worm on purpose to lose weight.
But the next question, once you find out that everything's okay with their health, is, well, what are you doing? You look great, so what are you doing? How are you doing that? And so we got on the topic of fasting. So we learned that most of their family's fasting and exercising, and so but they all have kind of a different way that they go about it. So my brother-in-law, he's lost 40 pounds in like a month and a half. And he will basically fast the entire day. But then when he gets home from work, he'll eat a big meal. So he might consume 1,500 to 2,000 calories in one sitting, but that's all he eats for the entire day. And my sister-in-law, so my wife's sister, his wife, she will eat from like 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And so I think everybody's pretty familiar with intermittent fasting and how that works and kind of the benefits of it. So as we were talking about fasting, right, we spent quite a bit of time talking about how it works and what all of our different preferences are. And I've done it quite a few times over the course of the last few years. Tried different methods and things like that. And so we just started talking about the benefits of fasting. And so I thought it would make a good episode for this, because when we talk about fasting, there's actually a lot more that we can talk about than what normally gets brought into the conversation.
Mhm.
So I thought we could start there. Obviously, there's the physical aspect, right?
Before we jump into the benefits of
Yeah.
it, actually, I feel like we need to throw in a disclaimer or caveat that fasting is not for everyone,
Mhm.
and it is not the only way to be physically healthy or to lose weight. And if the way you're doing it is causing you to not have enough energy, or you need to make sure you don't do it in an unhealthy way,
Yeah.
right? And there's eating disorders like anorexia that you want to make sure you're avoiding that. So I think you need to make sure that you research it, that you have a structure, that you're doing something that works well for you and your body.
Yes.
But we're going to talk about some benefits of fasting the right way.
Yes.
Right.
So that's a very important point to talk about. And there is a huge difference between fasting and just not eating. Fasting is an intentional focus on your health.
It's basically changing your schedule of eating,
Mhm.
right? And you still need to make sure you're eating enough calories, right? Whether you're getting that in one sitting or in smaller
few
snacks
hours.
throughout the day,
Yeah.
or just however you're doing that, you need to make sure you're getting the right amount of calories. So if fasting is the way you're going, make sure you're getting the amount of calories and nutrients that you need still.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Excellent point. So as I was we were talking about fasting though, and we were talking about the benefits of it, and I started thinking about, and throughout the course of that day, and I was talking to my wife about it, and I just started thinking about the different benefits across the board, and it occurred to me that most of our pillars actually are affected by fasting, and you can level up in all 4 pillars of health basically through fasting, as long as it's intentional. And to your point, my wife actually can't fast.
Mhm.
Like over the last couple of years, she's got blood sugar issues, and so if she doesn't eat for an extended amount of time, she gets sick and she loses all of her energy, and it takes a couple of days for her to bounce back.
Yeah.
So if you cannot go without eating for extended periods of time, then that's not what we're talking about here.
Right.
There are many different ways, and we're going to talk about a few of them,
Mhm.
but there are many different ways to go about getting the same results.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
I think that's a great point.
okay. So I think, again, we can start with the physical aspect of fasting.
It's the most apparent one.
Yeah,
right?
it's the most apparent one. So, obviously, the way that it came up, we were talking about losing weight.
Mhm.
Now, fasting to lose weight, again, is not stopping eating altogether. It's not just about, I need to cut down to 100 or 200 calories a day. That's not at all what we're talking about. It's an intentional focus on your eating habits and how we're going about getting those nutrients. Now, some of the benefits that have been brought up over recent years of fasting or intermittent fasting relates as much to gut health as it does to losing weight.
Mhm.
And obviously, as we improve our gut health, as we improve our overall physical health, that's going to correlate into weight loss and being more fit, right? And so one of the biggest things is, if your body is constantly trying to digest food, some things are going to be more complex and some things are going to be more simple. And so if your body is constantly trying to digest and break down foods, it's going to be overworked, right? Just like any other muscle, we're going to overwork that digestive system. Once in a while, it's a good thing to give your digestive system a break and to let it settle down. We talk about exercising, right? And exercising, they always recommend, and one of the biggest things that they recommend is your rest days. And being intentional with rest days, because that's how your body's going to recover.
Right.
And so we want our gut health, our digestive system, we want that to be able to recover as well. If it's constantly working, we're not getting the right benefits to our body. And so that's one of the things that we can improve through fasting is our overall digestive health.
You know, it's interesting because when I was a teenager, you know, our religion teaches fasting. That's one of our commandments, if you will, is to fast once a month. And that's something that we do if you can. Now, there are certain people who can't, like your wife, or if you're pregnant or nursing, like you shouldn't fast. Okay. Right. But if you're in a position where fasting is doable for you, our religion teaches it not for the physical benefits, but that is one of the things that comes from it. And so when I was a teenager, I went with a couple of missionaries in my area to teach a family who was learning about our church. And they were teaching them about fasting that day. And the dad of the family was like, he was a little bit leery of that because he's like, look, I don't want my daughters to like, or he had 2 daughters, right? I don't want them to not like get enough food. And the missionary was like, well, studies have actually shown that there are physical benefits to fasting. Now, don't fast too much, right? What we do is once a month, we fast for 2 meals. So once a month, we skip, usually, most people I think do skip breakfast and lunch and then eat dinner. And most people probably aren't very good at it like me. Like you know, you have like dinner at 3 o'clock that day instead of like skipping 2 full meals. But you know, I try. Okay. But I learned, that was the first time I ever heard that there were physical benefits to fasting. And I thought that was really interesting. And I don't think people were really talking about that as much then as they are now. Like it's become kind of this fad over the last like 5 years, it seems. But there is truth to it. There are a lot of physical health benefits to fasting.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we're talking about digestive health. We're talking about physical health. And I think that's a really...
Your bloodstream, your muscles, I think like everything benefits from having that break from time to time.
Yeah. Well, and I think it goes into kind of kickstarting everything, right? If you're just constantly doing the same thing over and over and over again, your digestive health and your blood health and everything else is going to be the same way. But if you're constantly doing the same thing over and over and over again, you're going to get complacent. You're going to get kind of lazy. Your digestive system's no different. If you're constantly in this state of digestion, you're going to get kind of lazy and things are not going to be working properly. Things are not going to be flowing right. And so every once in a while, it's a good thing to cut that out, give yourself a break, and maybe like kickstart everything that needs to be going on down there.
Right. It's like a jump start, like like with a car, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
Get your body going again. For sure.
So physical, I think, is a good thing there, and we can talk about a lot of different types of fasting, but I think weight loss is obviously going to be one of the byproducts. It's going to be one of kind of those alternative benefits, right? It's, well, for most people it's probably what they're aiming for, but what you're not seeing is all of the health benefits that you're getting outside of that. So
I recently lost, I don't know, like 10 to 15 pounds over a couple of months. And I wasn't trying to lose weight necessarily. It was like this podcast that we're doing is helping me to try to make changes in my life and be healthier. So one of the changes I made recently, I don't think like what I do would be considered fasting, but it is kind of a similar principle. I stopped eating breakfast right when I wake up. And part of the reason I would do that before was because I would get up at like 6 o'clock and then I would go to work. And so I felt like I had to eat breakfast before I went to work. And I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago, I started to wait till I got to work to eat breakfast. So I would just bring something healthy and light with me and eat breakfast. And then I actually what I try to do is almost the opposite of fasting, but I try to make sure I get my calories, but in small amounts each time. So I'm eating less for breakfast, less for lunch, less for dinner, but I'm eating more snacks in between.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another, I think as long as you're getting the right amount of calories for you, that's the most important thing. But I start a little bit later. So I think my body does get a little bit of a break. So instead of eating breakfast at 6:30, I'm eating breakfast at 9 to 10 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have maybe a 2-hour fast every morning, right? And so I think I'm getting some of those benefits from a smaller fast than what other
Right.
people might do.
Right. Well, and you're getting up, and your body is you're having a chance to get all of those systems in your body started before you're just automatically ingesting food.
And so that was a small change that I made. I'm also I heard that drinking warm honey water or lemon water, or honey lemon water, is really good if that's the first thing that you drink. It kind of helps clean out your, So what I'll do is I'll drink that, and then I'll wait to drink water even for half an hour, just give my body some time to let that go through. So that's kind of how I kickstart my digestive system, and then I usually don't eat breakfast till 9 or 10.
Interesting. Another fun fact though. Add a pinch of cayenne pepper.
I do that sometimes too.
To that lemon water.
Oh, it makes it taste not as good, but
I actually enjoy it.
Really?
Yeah, I actually enjoy it. Okay, yeah, and I think that's actually a really good segue, maybe into a later portion of the episode, but talking about different ways that we can fast.
Yeah,
and there are so many different things, and so I think we can definitely share some of the different ways that we've fasted over the years. Yeah. And the benefits of that. But I think we can also continue on with the pillars and talk about
let's do that.
Talk about how each one of the pillars is affected. And so
what pillar do you want to talk about next?
You pick.
Well, let's I feel like spiritual health is
another big one.
Is another big one. The Old Testament talks about fasting.
Yeah. I mean, well, and I feel like you've already kind of brought it up.
I brought it up a little bit too. Yeah.
So let's talk about spiritual.
So I find it interesting that I don't know how many other religions fast today. I know our church does. Maybe other Christians do. I actually have no idea. But I know the Old Testament talks about fasting. The New Testament talks about fasting. I'm guessing the Quran does, but I don't know for sure, right? But it's not a new concept. It's been around for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. And it's been around more for the spiritual benefits than the physical benefits, even though there are great physical benefits. And I think one of the things that's interesting about spirituality is there's almost always some physical benefit that comes with anything you do for a spiritual reason. And so fasting is one of them. And the spiritual benefit, at least the way our religion teaches it, is that our body and our spirit coexist, but they kind of sometimes fight each other, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
Right? And we have this natural tendency to want to do things that aren't good sometimes. Humans are selfish, and we're lazy, and there's all these negative things that our physical body is, does that or wants us to do that aren't good for us. And so what fasting does is it kind of helps to separate those, right? You weaken your physical state so that you can feel more spiritual. Yeah. I think is maybe the best way to put it. When you're in that weakened physical state, your spiritual sensitivity is heightened.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that can help in, just like you said, it can help us make better decisions, but it can also help us get closer to that spirituality. And so if we have deep burning questions, if we go into it with the right mindset, we'll be able to experience some of those maybe personal prophecy type situations.
Yeah.
Where we can get answers to those questions. And I think that's kind of another aspect of what our religion teaches, is to go into it intentionally and have those questions in your mind.
Have something you're focusing on.
Have something that you're focusing on, because it does tend to weaken your physical body and heighten your spiritual body. And so you are able to be more focused on some of those aspects.
For us, fasting is always with prayer, right?
Yes.
Prayer is a big part of fasting in our religion, at least when we talk about our monthly fast. And yes, you should pray every day, but the intermittent fasting maybe is a little bit different, but we have this monthly, like, okay, we're kind of resetting ourselves spiritually, and we're focusing on something. Maybe a family member is struggling, and so we're praying for them as we're fasting, and at the same time we're trying to be open to what can I do to help them out, right? And so that prayer is a big part of that, looking for answers to things, or praying for strength for something, or for somebody else to have strength for whatever they're going through.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think with the spirituality as well, we can talk about, so again, in our religion, because that's the one we know the most about, but we fast, like Perry said, we fast for 2 meals, technically. Sometimes we just fast until after church is over, which might be at 11 o'clock, and then we go home and start eating candy. But yeah, we fast for 2 meals. But then another aspect of that is when we go to our weekly church meeting that week, we actually allow members of the congregation to just get up at will, and if they choose to, they can share their experiences of the month, or they can share their experiences, share their testimony of what they believe. And that helps in 2 ways. One is you yourself are in a spiritually heightened state, and so it's expressing what you believe, but it's kind of helping you to focus and process that, because we all know that, I mean, therapy, that's exactly what therapy is being able to vocalize some of these feelings, because that makes it stronger. And so for the people that are sharing their testimonies, it allows them to strengthen that through sharing and kind of talk through and process that. But it also may help the people in the congregation as well, because they're maybe because that spiritual aspect of our bodies is so much stronger. Maybe some of the people that are sharing their testimonies are the answers to the questions that the people may have, and so it kind of helps to bring that aspect into unity, and bring that aspect of us closer together. So being able to share that spirituality is going to help us along with that. So not only are we weakening our physical body, strengthening our spiritual body, but we can talk about it as well. And share it. So,
yeah, exactly. You have that sense of community and everything. Yeah, that's great. Anything else with the spirituality? I feel like we kind of hit on.
We've pretty much hit on all of that. So I think the mental aspect is probably where it's going to be a little bit more convoluted and more tied into that spirituality. But again, it's just the idea, to me anyway, what I believe. It's just kind of that idea of we are weakening our physical body and having to rely on our other senses and other factors of our health. And so being able to do that, and especially like when we talk about the spiritual fasting, because we are typically doing that in a state of prayer and meditation, that's going to help to clear our mind as well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a big point. And then you also go back to the physical benefits of losing weight if you need to, of being in better physical shape. That gives you more energy. It gives you more capacity to think clearly. And being physically healthy really impacts your mental health, right? If you feel more confident, you feel stronger, that makes you feel better about yourself, right? So I think your mental health is also impacted in that way, along with, like we already said, with the spiritual, that sense of community, the way we fast, at least, coming together while we're fasting. Like on the first Sunday of any month, if you go to a congregation of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and you go to one of their meetings, it might seem a little bit bizarre because just random people are going up and sharing their thoughts, and there might be somebody saying some weird things that, like, don't take everything you hear as like...
We could all tell stories.
Anybody can go up, so it doesn't necessarily represent like what everybody else believes. But there's that sense of unity and community by getting together. Most people there will be fasting on that Sunday, and so there's that social aspect of your mental health too, I think. Well,
and I think too, aside from the church, I think now, like you said, fasting, intermittent fasting has kind of become a trend. And so there are always going to be people in the same state as you, and maybe maybe you join Facebook groups, or maybe you join a gym, or maybe you have a group of people where you're all kind of doing similar things,
Yeah.
and that's going to bring that sense of community as well.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
think that's pretty straightforward. I mean, like there's probably other ways that your mental health benefits from this, but just it's a benefit
It's a
to your
benefit.
mental health.
It's
It
a
definitely
benefit.
is. So let's talk about the financial
Yeah.
aspect of it. I think obviously if you eat less, you're spending less money, and you want to make sure that you're eating enough for sure. But I think in general in our culture, there's an overeating problem.
Absolutely.
Right? A lot of people overeat. I've spent a lot of my life overeating, and I'm trying not to anymore. Right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of a common stereotype of Americans, especially, is that we are more obese, more overweight than we've ever been. And
Yeah.
I think in some cases worldwide, that's the case. There is more affluence, there is more excess than ever before, and that goes with food as well. So.
Exactly. So as you eat less and eat the amount that you should, right? You're spending less money on food. You skip a meal, that's a meal you're not paying for.
Absolutely. Right? And if you have a family and you're all fasting together, kind of like we do with our church monthly, that's kind of another part of the idea is if you have a family of 5 and you don't eat a meal, that could be $50 that you're saving for the day. And maybe you save that and use it for somewhere else in your life. Maybe it helps you get your rent paid, or maybe it helps you get something else paid, or maybe you take that and donate it and give it to somebody else who maybe those people who don't have enough to eat. Maybe you're able to provide a meal to a family who doesn't have a meal.
And that's one of the things our church focuses on. We generally actually donate that money that we would have spent on those meals, and that money goes towards helping those that are poor and in need. Yeah. But that concept can. I heard a story once of a guy who his wife had a medical problem that made it hard for her to iron. And this was like 50 years ago, so it was like back when men didn't iron and only women did, or whatever, right? But his way of sacrificing to help her out was he skipped lunch every day for like 6 months or something like that, and saved the money he normally would have spent on lunch, and he used that to buy some sort of device that made ironing easier for her because she had like something with her. I can't remember what it was, but it hurt to use her arms to iron, and the device allowed her to use her feet more, or something like that. And so,
interesting.
There is definitely an opportunity if you decide to skip a meal every day to save some of that money and put it towards something else that you need.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it can affect your overall financial health, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think also just, and like you look at some of the ways our pillars interact with each other anyway. If you feel better about yourself, you're in a better state mentally, you're less likely to go like buy things that you don't need because you're trying to fill some void.
Right.
Medical bills, right? Like you're less likely to need to go to the hospital or go to the doctor as much. If you're taking care of yourself physically, that impacts your financial health as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So all good stuff. I think we've touched on all of the pillars now and the benefits that we get. So I think it's important too, like we said, there are so many different ways, and everybody kind of has their own way. And so I think we can maybe share a few of kind of the more common methods of fasting or ways of fasting. And so the first one, I mean, we've already talked about a couple, but I think the first one that kind of, again, started this whole thought process for me was the intermittent fasting, where it's been so prominent in the health world lately, talking about intermittent fasting and how that works. And so basically the idea of intermittent fasting is you are cutting down the time that you actually eat during the day into a smaller place.
Instead of starting to eat at 7 in the morning and finishing at 9 at night, you're finding a chunk of time somewhere where you're not eating.
Yeah. So, and I think scientifically, there's benefits to not eating as soon as you wake up, right? We all, and you brought this up yourself, but we've all probably heard some case or some study about the benefits of not eating right when you wake up. Your body needs time to kind of get all of those systems started.
Yeah.
And
Start
time
out
to
with
process.
a tall glass of water.
Yeah, so start out with drinking room temperature water,
Yeah.
right? We don't advocate cold water, especially that early in the morning, because that could actually shock your system
Right.
and slow it down. And so just starting the day with water, right? And then not eating for a period of time and then eating. And then we also have heard of the benefits of not eating right before bed,
Right.
right? So you eat right before bed and then you lay down and go to sleep and you're not burning those calories that you just ate, right? So the idea of eating in general is that we're taking in calories, which is energy, in order for us to be able to do the daily functions that our bodies are required to do.
Yeah.
And so if we eat, nonstop and we eat right before we go to bed, then we lay down and our body's not able to burn all of those calories that we've just consumed, and that leads to the overweight issues, and it leads to kind of that digestion slowdown and breakdown of our digestive system.
Yeah.
And so the idea of intermittent fasting is just not eating for periods of time. So again, I mentioned my brother-in-law, and he'll eat one meal when he gets home from work. So he's not eating all during the day, giving his body time to get going and get moving, and then he's burning through some of those fat reserves that he's already created. And then he eats the one meal during the day that he needs to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's having that time to burn through all of those calories before he goes to bed. Or at least, having some backups for the next day to keep him going.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's one way. My sister-in-law will eat from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. One of the things that I've done myself with intermittent fasting is I like to do no solids before noon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll wake up in the morning and get going, get moving, have some water. And I always try and drink at least 32 ounces of water before I really take anything else in.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe a protein shake at 8 or 9 o'clock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you can't take in any calories at
Right.
all, but I'll do liquids only until noon.
Now there's some pretty healthy protein shakes too.
Yeah. And then from noon to 6, so I'll eat from noon to 6 is typically my window when I do intermittent fasting. And then after 6 o'clock, it's nothing, no calories. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of different ways. And again, it's one of those things, like I said, my wife can't go that extended periods of time. So maybe eating smaller portions, like you said. Eat smaller portions throughout the day and call that your intermittent fasting, because you're not eating 1,000 calories in a sitting.
Right. Well, if you're overeating like many of us do sometimes, just eat a smaller breakfast and you might get hungry sooner, right? So you eat your small breakfast like I do at 10, and then at 11, I'm already ready for a snack, because usually my breakfast is a smoothie.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not, I get a lot of fruits and vegetables and some protein that I put in there too. But then I have a small snack, and then at 12:30 I have a smaller lunch. I just have a deli sandwich or a salad or something. And then at 2 I'm ready for another snack, and I have apples and peanut butter or something, so I'm trying to eat healthier food, but I'm eating smaller amounts more frequently throughout the day than I used to. But I've actually, I think, cut down on my total caloric intake by doing that. So for me, the fasting part is just those first 2 to 3 hours in the morning, not eating, giving my body time to get going.
Right.
So that's another way to do that.
Yeah. But I think with that, though, anytime we cut back on something, we could really technically call it fasting, right? You're putting less focus on something, and it's allowing your focus to go somewhere else. Yeah.
And I don't go crazy. I've said this before in previous episodes, I'm not going to cut out ice cream or chocolate. I still eat things that are bad for me, and I still, my wife and I went on a date the other night, and we went to Chuckarama, which is a buffet, and I ate until I was overly full. I still do that sometimes, right? But I don't do it every day anymore.
Yeah, well, and I think in most cases they recommend what they call cheat days.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I prefer treat days
There we go.
because it's a more positive
Yeah.
outlook, right? But there's always a recommended
Yeah.
cheat day, and so I think once in a while that's okay if it's every single day. Last night we did Sunday night with my family. We went on a date and then came home and we went and bought. We spent $150.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we got
I'm like-
some other things too. We
Okay.
got some
Yeah.
drinks and some like chips and salsa and some other things too.
Yeah.
But we spent a lot
Like
of
ice
money
cream
on,
and caramel
Sunday
and-
toppings.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
but yeah, so it's still important to do those things because I mean, let's face it, we have a family of 6. It's going to be quite expensive to do those kind of things, but once in a while,
Yeah.
we gathered together, we were laughing, we were joking, we were talking about the different toppings that we were putting on. We're getting kind of competitive who can make the best sundae, and then we sit down and watch a movie,
Yeah.
right? Like it's family time.
Right.
You can cheat a little bit or treat yourself a little bit for family time.
Right.
That's okay.
Well, I think there's this. I've jokingly debated with coworkers and stuff before about the these two ideas that seem to conflict with each other of enjoying life while you have it versus like not enjoying life and living longer because
Yeah.
of it, right? Like you don't eat the things you want to eat, and that makes you live longer. That just means you're spending more time not eating what you want to eat. But I think there's actually a balance. Like,
Yeah.
okay, eat healthy, try to eat more good foods, and cut back on like the stuff that you really enjoy that's not good for you, but still eat it sometimes
Yeah.
so that you live longer and you still enjoy those things while you
Yeah.
live longer.
I mean,
Do both.
what's the point of living longer if you're not going to enjoy the life that you
Yeah.
have? And
It's
I think there's ways that you can make the healthier things seem more enjoyable as well.
yeah,
I saw
for sure.
I saw a thing the other day that was like 11 different ways to cook broccoli. And I was like,
I love broccoli.
Huh.
But
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's ways that you can kind of spice it up
Yeah.
throughout your day too.
Well, I feel it's
So.
like that crunchy taco shell commercial where they're arguing. I can't remember. They're arguing about how the taco should be, and the little girl's like, "Why not both?" And they're like,
Oh.
"Oh, yeah."
And then you get the double decker taco
yeah,
from
you
Taco
get
Bell.
double decker taco. Yeah.
Those are amazing.
So
Okay.
eat what you want to eat to a certain degree, but in
Yeah.
moderation, and have fun with your healthy food, and live longer and enjoy eating.
Exactly. So that's intermittent fasting, right? Is where it's like a shorter period of time that you're actually eating. It's smaller amounts that you're actually eating, and so you're getting all of those health benefits. The other thing, and like we talked about this with your spiritual health, but is periodically going extended periods without eating.
Yeah.
Now we do that with our church for spiritual purposes once a month, and for health purposes. I know a lot of people do similar things, but I will do like periodically. I will do, they call them cleanses
A
or,
juice
or
cleanse or
fast
something,
or something like that. Where my process is, I actually have a juice guy, so I'll order. So I'll order the juices from him and get. They have like a 1 day, a 3 day, a 5 day fast
Yeah.
that they have. It's a juice cleanse that they have, and you can buy, and they'll bring you or you can go pick them up. But he'll bring them to me because I work with him, so he delivers them to me. But yeah, so I'll periodically, and then like just to kind of give my body a rest
Right.
because the juices have a lot of like enzymes
A lot
that
of
are
the
gonna
nutrients that you
that are
need.
going to help your
Yeah.
digestive system and kickstart
Restart it,
everything.
right.
And so I'll I'll take a day before I do the juice cleanse and eat nothing,
Mhm.
so that it's prepped for all of those enzymes and all those bacteria and all the stuff that you're getting from the fruits and vegetables in the juice to get everything kickstarted. So I'll take 1 day of just water and then 1 day of juice, and then after you've done that, you don't want to just like shove all this unhealthy,
Right.
unnatural stuff back into your digestive system, because then you're just going to plug everything back up again.
Right.
And so I'll kind of slowly work my way back into like, liquids, protein shakes,
Mhm.
Yogurts,
Mhm.
things like that, salad, things that are easy to
Yeah.
break down, and kind of slowly work your way back up to eating healthier portions, eating healthier foods. And as you do that, it's I can't remember how long it takes, but like over a period of time, you learn new habits, right? And so if you're doing that for 7 days, then your body gets kind of into a habit of eating healthier amounts and eating healthier foods.
Mm-hmm.
So periodically doing things like that is a good way to kind of restructure, reframe your eating habits
Mm-hmm.
and kickstart your digestive system to get back on track.
Yeah, there you go.
So
I think those are probably the two most common ways of fasting,
Yeah.
right? Either like every day minus some cheat or treat days from time to time. You have a period of time where you're not eating, you're eating healthier foods. And then there's the like once every like 2 or 3 months or whatever where you do like a 3-day cleanse or yeah. Any other ways that you know of? Those are the only two that I know of.
no, those are really the only ways that I know of. I think the next aspect that we can talk about though is I think it's important to understand that fasting doesn't just apply to food.
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to
Well,
bring this aspect into it as well.
Lent, right?
Yeah. So fasting basically can apply to anything. So we talk about overeating, we talk about health issues from eating too much and obesity and digestive issues and things like that. But there's more than just food that can lead to negative side effects.
Yeah.
Right? And
So one of the episodes that I would like to do at some point is on this book called How to Break Up with Your Phone.
Mhm.
And I haven't read the whole thing yet, but I've read like half of it. And one of the things she talks about is it's not like never using your phone again, but the purpose of the book is to help you have a better relationship with your phone.
Mhm.
And one of the first steps is to not use your phone for a whole day, like at all. And so you turn your phone off, you put it somewhere where you don't even look at it. Or I think she might do 2 days. I can't remember. I'll study it up before we do an episode on it. But fasting from your phone.
Mhm.
And that's a way of kickstarting like a new routine that she proposes that you have with your phone. But that's something you can do with your phone even if you don't like read this book. You could do that once a month. Like, all right, Saturday, I don't need my phone all day. I'm not going to use it all day.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's one example.
I actually did this last year, starting around Thanksgiving, end of November. I was like, I'm spending too much time on my phone. I'm spending too much time not focusing on the areas of my life that I need to be focusing on. And so I actually deleted all of my social media apps.
Mhm.
And I did not even look at social media, or I didn't even have the apps available on my phone for like a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So all through December, all through the holidays for me, and even into January. So in January of this year, it was like the first week of January, me and my wife went on a cruise.
Mm-hmm.
And so like for a month and a half or so, I
You had a
didn't.
social media fast.
Yeah, I had a social media fast, and I think there's a lot of benefits to social media, but I think there's a lot of negative aspects of social media.
Same with your phone in general.
Same with your phone in general, and same with food, right?
Yeah.
I think there's benefits to certain things, but there's also negative effects that these things can have. And so when you do the fasting, there's going to be definitely some benefits that you'll get from it. And maybe what that benefit is you're just able to focus on something else.
Video games.
Video games. I knew a guy. He wasn't actually a smoker,
Mm-hmm.
but he decided to take up a smoking habit, as he called it. And so every time he would go to the gas station and buy a drink or buy whatever, he would always get, $10, $15 back in cash and just stick it in his wallet. And that was his way of saying, well, this is what most people are spending on a pack of cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to take it and I'm going to give it to myself and see how much money I can save in a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it was like every time he'd go to the gas station, he'd get 10 or 15 bucks back and he'd just put it in his wallet. And I actually started doing the same thing for a little while, and it adds up fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Right? So fasting from whatever it is, fasting from spending money, fasting from online shopping, fasting from, video games, like you said, fasting from anything.
From exercising. Right? You don't want to exercise too much. Like you said, your body needs that break.
Mm-hmm.
You need those rest days.
Yeah. So when we talk about fasting, the benefits are universal
Mhm.
across the board, right? Anything that we do, it's good to take breaks once in a while. It's good to give your body a rest once in a while
Mhm.
and slow those things down. So
For sure.
I think that was another important note to kind of share with all of this.
Yeah.
So
It's healthy for you to find something to temporarily give up,
Mhm.
something that is generally a good thing, but can have some negative effects or whatever,
yeah,
and to give it up temporarily to kind of reset yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, use it for the right reasons,
absolutely.
for sure.
I like it. We appreciate you guys listening. Just like always, we have our weekly challenge. So the weekly challenge that we have this week is, again, we talked about, it can be anything.
It doesn't have to be food.
It doesn't have to be food, but for the next week, just pick one thing in your life that maybe you're doing too much of, or maybe that you see that could be cut back, and identify that one thing and just
Take a break.
Yeah, just take a break. Just take a break for a week. Whether you decide to do intermittent fasting from food, whether you decide to do a juice cleanse this week, like I mentioned, kind of walk through the process
Social
of
media,
social media for a week, break up with your phone,
Game of
maybe,
Thrones or whatever.
maybe
you watch.
cut out the games. Like, I know you can't give up your phone every single day, but maybe you just cut out the games on your phone.
Right.
You know, delete Candy Crush for a week.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. So one thing that you can do to just cut out for a week, or at least intermittent fasting for a week.
Yeah, it's a great weekly challenge. And again, we want to thank you for listening. Don't forget to give us a 5-star review, like, comment, help us grow.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely, we do. And we're going to be back hopefully weekly.
Yeah.
We'll
we're trying to get back to weekly. Summer's always tough. It's always tough with schedules and stuff, but now we're kind of in the fall, and school's been in full swing for a month or whatever. So
yeah, I think we're all done with Disneyland trips.
Yeah. Hopefully done getting sick, and now that school's underway for a while.
Yeah.
You don't have the back to school sicknesses going around anymore.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll be back weekly,
and don't forget to listen to us on Spotify and iTunes or wherever you listen. Amazon, Google, YouTube. Check us out.
Yep. And join us again next week. Where do you know what we're going to be talking about next week?
Yeah, I had an idea. I'm trying to remember now off the top of my head what it was. I had it written down. But I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Don't miss it.
It's going to be good. Man, I'm like, I was thinking about it last night, and I can't remember what it was. But I wrote it down, so we'll have it. It's going to be a good episode.
Perfect, yeah. Don't miss it.
All right, we'll see you then.
See ya.